What unfolds when the campus intimidator targets the wrong individual, a young woman who has been preparing for precisely such a confrontation? There's an atmosphere in high school dining halls that seems to draw out people's unpleasant sides. Perhaps it's the clamor, or maybe the collective pretense of ignoring one another while everyone is acutely observant. At Lincoln High, however, the lunchtime commons transcended mere eating. It functioned as an arena for social standing. That was the setting for the incident. It occurred on an unremarkable Thursday, the weather pleasant, with juniors and seniors loosely tallying the remaining weeks until summer vacation. Maya Sharma, having just completed her pre-calculus exam, was making her way to the cafeteria. Earphones tucked away, backpack hanging from one shoulder, she held a partially finished copy of Kindred. At 16, she possessed a keen intellect, sharp perception, and a reserved demeanor that led others to assume she missed the nuances of her surroundings. Yet she saw everything. She simply chose silence. Her eyes swept over the familiar seating options. The majority were occupied. The jocks, the drama club members, the musicians, the social media personalities perpetually glued to their devices. Her preferred spot near the windows was unavailable, prompting her to redirect towards a less crowded table situated closer to the center. It was then she noticed it. A rucksack positioned squarely in the middle of the bench, asserting its claim. Like a territorial marker, she paused, her gaze meeting that of the bag's owner, a tall senior, identifiable by his school jacket and short blonde hair. His name was Ethan Vance. She knew him by sight, as did everyone else. He belonged to that category of individuals, recognized not for achievements, but by the cautious way others navigated around him, as if he were an unaddressed hazard in the corridor. Maya approached, maintaining her composure. "Excuse me," she began, her voice loud enough for courtesy but not confrontation. "Is this seat taken? Could you shift your backpack?" Initially, Ethan paid her no mind, continuing to prod at his lunch tray. Then, a smirk formed as he cocked his head, conveying disbelief that she had addressed him. "Are you kidding me?" he drawled, his tone devoid of inflection. Maya gave a single nod. "Yes, I just need somewhere to sit." He leaned back theatrically, as though her simple request was somehow insulting. His eyes flickered towards his companions, two of the senior boys, both observing the interaction. One let out a muffled chuckle. "The entire cafeteria," Ethan stated flatly. "And you picked this spot?" "It isn't your designated table," Maya responded, her calmness unwavering. "Only your bag is here." That remark marked a turning point. The smirk vanished, replaced by a subtle tensing of his jaw. Maya remained unperturbed. She simply held her ground, steady and unflinching. He reached down, grasped the rucksack deliberately, and slid it mere inches aside, creating just enough room. "Fine," he clipped. "Sit." Many would have retreated or sought alternative seating. Maya, however, settled onto the bench smoothly, composed, as if this outcome was precisely anticipated. The youths at the table's far end snickered amongst themselves. A nearby student whispered something. Maya opened her novel, seemingly oblivious to the surrounding commentary. Ethan, conversely, was not amused. His gaze repeatedly darted towards her, his equilibrium apparently disturbed by her refusal to be intimidated. 5 minutes elapsed, then 10. Maya remained silent, consuming little of her lunch, absorbed in her reading, only glancing up briefly at nearby movements. Ethan continued his conversation with his friends, making pointed remarks, his volume escalating, unnecessarily loud. He was performing for an audience, until suddenly the performance stopped. He pivoted towards her abruptly. "What? You think you're some kind of tough girl?" Maya lifted her head, her expression one of mild confusion. "Pardon me?" "I asked," Ethan reiterated, shoving his tray slightly. "If you think you're tough, sitting there pretending you don't give..." Damn. Her gaze met his, not with fear, but with a weariness suggesting familiarity with such displays. "I'm merely sitting," she stated plainly. "Right," he scoffed, rising to his feet, his posture subtly encroaching upon her personal space. "So go sit somewhere else." Nearby students began to turn their heads. Conversations died down. A phone camera was discreetly raised. Maya closed her book, not hastily nor sluggishly, but with deliberation. "I am not moving," she affirmed quietly. He edged nearer. It was then his palm slammed onto the table, the sound sharp enough to make several students jump. Following that, the moment etched in everyone's memory. He jostled her shoulder. It wasn't forceful enough to unseat her, but sufficient to signal the end of any pretense of jesting. Ethan, however, was on the verge of discovering that not all reserved girls remain passive when physically confronted. To grasp the subsequent events, one must understand Maya Sharma's background. She wasn't merely a teenager attempting to assert herself in a noisy high school lunchroom. She avoided conflict, steered clear of melodrama, and had no ambition to be a savior or a nuisance. Yet she possessed a strong sense of self, forged by past encounters where the world had tested her mettle. She had learned early that quietness did not equate to vulnerability. She resided with her mother and elder brother in a simple apartment on the outskirts of Phoenix, Arizona. It lacked luxury, but offered clean surroundings, well-used furniture, and an unspoken affection evident in prepared meals and unprompted transportation. Her mother, Priya, dedicated long shifts to her nursing job at the local hospital, frequently returning home late into the night. Her brother Rohan, aged 19 and newly enrolled in community college, frequently cautioned Maya against allowing others to treat her disrespectfully. "You might not have a loud bark," he'd advised her once, "but you better be ready to bite when necessary." Crucially, Maya lacked an inherent aggressive streak. She didn't engage in verbal sparring or resort to violence over minor disputes. However, an incident at age 13 in a public park shifted things. A man had followed her persistently, uttering inappropriate remarks. Although she escaped the situation physically unscathed, the experience prompted her mother to enroll her in Krav Maga lessons. Initially conceived as a measure for peace of mind, Maya committed to the training year after year. Her bearing improved, her situational awareness heightened, not into hypervigilance, but into a state of preparedness. 3 afternoons weekly, post-school without fail. Her trainers were demanding, indifferent to her age or gender amidst adult practitioners. She trained with the intensity of someone safeguarding something valuable, which, to her, she was. 16. Maya could neutralize an assailant threatening her with a broken bottle. She could escape various holds and grabs. She could leverage a larger adversary's momentum to her advantage. Critically, she had mastered maintaining composure and breathing under duress. Yet, she kept this aspect of her life private, absent from school conversations, social media, or discussions even with her closest companions. Her training was for self-preservation, not for display. At Lincoln High, the prevailing perception of Maya was limited. The reserved girl of color in the second row, never raising her voice, never initiating trouble. But Maya had been observant. She noted Ethan's habit of harassing younger students in the corridors, his ridicule of a freshman with a speech impediment severe enough to cause the boy to miss school for days. She witnessed teachers either turning a blind eye or feebly requesting Ethan moderate his behavior, seemingly intimidated by his family's influence. She observed, and she retained these observations. Therefore, when Ethan loomed over her in the cafeteria that day, Maya's reaction wasn't solely to the single push. It was a cumulative response to every instance where individuals like him assumed impunity every time reticence was misinterpreted as fear. She exhibited no panic, no startle reflex. She rose deliberately, her gaze locking with his, conveying an aura of unhurried control. Ethan responded with laughter. "Whoa!" he called out, ensuring the surrounding audience heard. "Getting up for—" "Real now?" She offered no reply. He moved closer. "Gonna start crying or take a swing? Doesn't matter to me." His associates watched intently. More phones were now recording. A hush fell over the room, punctuated only by low murmurs and the clatter of shifted trays. Maya executed a controlled step backward. Her stance was stable, feet firmly positioned, hands relaxed at her sides, palms open. "Do not put your hands on me again," she stated, her voice level. Ethan sneered. "Yeah? Or else what?" But Ethan wasn't truly prepared for the answer, though he was moments away from receiving it. The atmosphere within the dining hall shifted palpably. Everyone sensed it. A metaphorical chill descended, leaving onlookers uncertain whether to react with nervous laughter or stunned silence. Maya remained immobile. No blinking, no forward or backward movement. She stood resolute, composed, resembling the tranquil center of a gathering storm. Her earlier words echoed, soft yet distinct. "Do not put your hands on me again." Ethan smirked, still perceiving the situation as amusing, perhaps a potential viral moment for social media where he dictated the narrative. He invaded her personal space again, leaning in excessively, as if demonstrating his dominance. "Got real intense all of a sudden," he taunted, mimicking her serious tone. She remained silent. His eyes scanned the room, registering the pointed smartphones. Whispers circulated among some students. Others appeared paralyzed. The cafeteria supervisors were positioned far off, one preoccupied with a spilled drink, oblivious to the escalating tension. It was then Ethan initiated his subsequent action, the one indelibly marked in collective memory. He reached out once more, applying significantly more force. His hand struck her shoulder with greater impact, clearly intended to push her off. Balance, not merely touch. His goal was public humiliation, to make her falter. Yet Maya did not falter. Instead, perception seemed to momentarily dilate. No shout, no scream escaped her lips. Her response was an action so fluid, most observers only grasped its entirety upon reviewing grainy phone footage later. In a single, seamless motion, she transferred her weight to her rear foot, rotated her shoulder inward, allowing the force of his shove to glance off her. She moved towards him, not retreating, redirecting his own momentum against him. Her hand ascended with practiced control, securing his wrist. Her other hand applied light pressure behind his elbow. Before Ethan could process the maneuver, she executed a swift pivot. His body contorted unnaturally, his equilibrium vanished. She didn't employ excessive force, just sufficient leverage to send him staggering backward, limbs windmilling. He collapsed onto his rear, hitting the cafeteria floor with a solid thud. The preceding silence shattered. A collective gasp arose from half the room. The remainder was speechless. One of Ethan's friends made a motion to intervene, but Maya had already disengaged, hands open, posture composed. She hadn't inflicted injury, no blows, no kicks. Her response defied conventional expectations of a fight. She had merely maneuvered, allowing his own aggression to cause his fall. Ethan scrambled upright, his face flushed crimson, a mixture of embarrassment and fury. His anger stemmed not from physical discomfort, but from her failure to react as predicted. She hadn't become hysterical, hadn't lashed out erratically, hadn't provided him any vulnerability to exploit. "You find this entertaining?" he yelled. "Think that was clever?" Maya met his gaze and uttered 5 words that effectively silenced him. "Are you finished humiliating yourself?" The onlookers erupted, a mix of laughter and astonished murmurs. Phones still recording. Ethan's expression contorted. The impulse to retaliate was visible, yet he restrained himself. Perhaps realizing a further physical encounter would not favor him, or perhaps finally grasping that the audience's attention was on him and he had lost command of the situation. The lunch monitors, alerted by the disturbance, began approaching. Ethan turned, muttered an indistinct phrase, and departed swiftly, pushing past a cluster of awestruck freshmen. Maya calmly resumed her seat, retrieved her book, and turned a page as if undisturbed. The assistant principal arrived within 2 minutes. "Miss Sharma," Mr. Davies addressed her, standing beside her table, "I need you to accompany me." She acknowledged with a nod, placed her book into her bag, and followed him without protest. Phones remained active. The video clip was rapidly circulating. By the close of the 6th period, nearly the entire student body of Lincoln High had witnessed the event. Ironically, the focus wasn't on Ethan's initial aggression. The universal topic of discussion was Maya's response. The repercussions, however, were just beginning, and disbelief lingered among many regarding the reality of what they'd observed. 10 seconds, that was the entire duration, from Ethan's shove to his impact with the floor. 10 seconds that completely reshaped the school's image of Maya Sharma. She trailed Assistant Principal Davies down the corridor, a tall man with graying hair, typically inclined to sidestep controversy. He remained mostly silent, occasionally glancing back at her, seemingly uncertain about the narrative he was about to receive. They halted before the main office. Through the glass partition, the reception area, nurse's office, and the row of chairs for students awaiting discipline or early dismissal were visible. On this day, the seat nearest the window was occupied. Ethan, his face still flushed. He looked up as Maya entered, then quickly averted his gaze. Ms. Peterson, the receptionist, acknowledged both students with a glance before directing Maya to a seat on the opposite side. No verbal exchange, no pleasantries. An uncomfortable silence permeated the space. Eventually, Mr. Davies's office door opened. He beckoned both students inside. They took seats facing his desk, separated by an empty chair. The atmosphere was charged, as if all three were attempting to decipher the same unwritten protocol simultaneously. "All right," Mr. Davies began, steepling his fingers. "Can someone explain what transpired today?" Ethan spoke first, his voice projecting, already formulating his defense. "She assaulted me," he declared, "right in front of everyone. Completely lost control. I barely even touched her." Maya remained impassive. She looked briefly at him, then addressed Mr. Davies directly. "He pushed me. On 2 occasions," she stated. "I requested him to stop. He persisted. I acted in self-defense." Mr. Davies tapped his pen on his notepad, and acted in self-defense involved. "I redirected his momentum," she clarified calmly. "I did not strike him. I did not injure him. I simply removed him from my personal space." "Redirected?" Ethan interjected with a scoff. "What is she, some kind of martial arts expert now?" "I practice Krav Maga," Maya stated, not meeting Ethan's eyes. "For 3 years. I avoid altercations, but I refuse to permit anyone to lay hands on me with impunity." Mr. Davies observed them both intently. His expression suggested unfamiliarity with such scenarios, particularly involving a student like Maya, or indeed any student. "You weren't injured, were you?" he inquired of Ethan. "Nah, I'm okay," Ethan mumbled. "And Maya, was it your intention to escalate the matter?" "No, sir, my only objective was to find a place to sit." He nodded pensively, jotted down some notes, and exhaled slowly. "I will need to examine the video evidence," he announced. "However, considering the accounts provided and the footage already circulating online, it appears this incident could have escalated far more seriously." His gaze shifted to Ethan. "You had no right to touch her. At all." Ethan started to speak, then stopped. Mr. Davies then turned to Maya. "And while I acknowledge you didn't physically strike him, school grounds are not the appropriate venue for physical responses, however controlled." Maya nodded. "I understand. Mr. Davies leaned back, massaging his temples. Presently, I will contact both sets of parents. You will remain in separate designated areas for the remainder of the school day. Suspension is not being issued at this time. However, should further review of the footage reveal additional concerns, this decision may be reconsidered. Ethan emitted a low groan. Maya remained silent. Mr. Davies dismissed them individually, starting with Ethan. Maya waited outside the administrative office while her mother was contacted. Priya Sharma was mid-shift at the hospital, but upon learning of the incident, she departed work immediately. Her arrival took approximately 30 minutes. She entered without drama or outburst, simply approached the reception desk, requested her daughter, and then subjected Maya to a prolonged, searching gaze, not accusatory but intensely observant. Once in the car, Maya finally broke the quiet. I didn't intend to cause him harm. Priya kept her eyes fixed on the road ahead. You didn't, she affirmed, but you did make a decision. Maya acknowledged with a nod. I realize that. Priya offered few additional words, but just before exiting the school's parking area, she added a crucial sentiment. I'm proud of you for defending yourself and for maintaining your composure. However, contrary to Maya's hope that the incident was concluded, the whispers within the school were just amplifying, and the reactions were not universally positive. By Friday morning, the video clip had breached the confines of Lincoln High. Initially shared on Instagram by a sophomore whose username was excessively numerical, it quickly migrated to TikTok. The 10-second segment, titled "She Totally Flipped Him," and set to a popular audio track, was rapidly shared, remixed, and analyzed in slow motion. Captions, memes, and reaction videos proliferated. Within mere hours, it amassed over 100,000 views. Yet the view count wasn't the most impactful aspect. It was the altered perception of her peers. Maya entered school maintaining her usual confident posture, but now she was the subject of constant observation. The looks weren't pitying, nor entirely admiring. They reflected a blend of curiosity and bewilderment, as if students struggled to align the reserved girl they'd known passively for years with the figure in the viral clip. Some offered smiles, others conspicuously made way for her. What about Ethan? He was absent that morning. The prevailing rumor suggested he'd informed the administration he felt threatened, a claim notably ironic given his role as the instigator. Yet such inversions occur. Individuals adopt victimhood upon losing dominance. During lunch, Maya chose a different table, joining her friend Chloe, who hadn't witnessed the event firsthand but offered ample commentary after viewing the video. Repeatedly, "You seriously took him down," Chloe murmured, smiling broadly. "Like, actually." Maya managed a faint smile but felt no inclination to celebrate. "I didn't take him down," she corrected. "I shifted my position." He lost his balance. "Potato, potato." "No," Maya insisted gently. "It's distinct." From across the cafeteria, a knot of freshmen engaged in hushed conversation, gesturing towards Maya. One held up a phone, seemingly comparing the real Maya to her digital counterpart. She despised the attention, not from shame, but because that single moment felt reductive, misrepresentative of her identity. It wasn't a staged stunt or a retaliatory gesture. It was purely self-preservation. The internet, however, rarely appreciated such nuance. By the 7th period, a teacher quietly inquired after class if she was all right, not offering assistance, not asking if she felt unsafe. Simply, was she okay? The interaction felt peculiar, indicative of the adult's own uncertainty. Some evidently wished to commend her bravery. Others preferred to ignore the incident entirely. Then came Ethan's circle. Two of his associates intercepted her near the vending machines during the final class period. Their approach wasn't overtly hostile, more like predators circling with insincere civility. "Hey, Sharma," one initiated. "Word is you pulled some martial arts moves on Ethan." Maya offered no response. The second youth leaned slightly closer. "Look, if the seat was the issue, you could have just asked differently. Didn't need the wrestling-style takedown." She turned to address him directly, maintaining the same calm demeanor as before. "Do you genuinely believe this was about seating?" she inquired. He gave a non-committal shrug. "Regardless, you embarrassed him publicly. He won't let that slide easily." Maya regarded both of them. No apprehension, no anger, only candidness. Perhaps, then, he should reconsider shoving people who politely request him to move personal belongings. Neither boy offered a retort. They withdrew, but their implicit message lingered. Ethan's ego had sustained a greater blow than his physical self, and certain individuals resented that, particularly those long accustomed to equating dominance with physical presence, volume, and self-importance. That same afternoon, Maya was summoned back to the office. The purpose this time wasn't disciplinary. It concerned the subsequent course of action. Mr. Davies convened with her and Priya once more. "I have consulted with district administrators," he stated evenly, "and with Ethan's parents. They are evaluating their choices. Transferring him to another school is a possibility." Maya remained silent. "You are not facing disciplinary measures, Maya. However, we must ensure your continued comfort and sense of security here." She met his gaze directly. "My sense of safety has never been compromised. It's merely that others did not anticipate my capacity to ensure it." Mr. Davies gave a slow nod. Priya offered a subtle, supportive smile. Despite the school's intervention, however, a more profound, uncontrollable shift was underway, affecting perceptions beyond even Maya's influence. Ethan reappeared on Monday. His return lacked fanfare or overt tension. He simply re-entered the school environment as if unchanged, except his demeanor was markedly different. The swagger had vanished, along with the characteristic smirk and the entitled manner in which he occupied space. People still observed him, but their gazes lacked the former deference. Maya neither shunned nor confronted him. No glares, no whispers, no air of superiority. She simply continued her routine, centered, composed, seemingly guided by her own internal compass. The unexpected development occurred the following Friday after classes. As Maya walked towards the rear exit, earphones in, preparing for her bus journey home, she noticed a figure lingering near the fence. Ethan, unaccompanied. She stopped, removing one earbud. "I'm not looking for trouble," he began hastily. I wasn't sure how else to approach you." Maya folded her arms. "There's nothing obligatory for you to say." "Actually, there is," he countered, briefly lowering his gaze. "I handled that badly. I got caught up in what others thought, and I believed, I'm not sure. I guess I figured pushing you would make me seem dominant or something. Instead, it just revealed my own insecurity to everyone." She allowed a moment of silence before responding. He glanced up. "You could have seriously injured me." "That was never my intention," she replied. "I simply required you to cease." He nodded in understanding. "I've seen the online comments," he continued, "the video edits, the mockery. It's been intense, but the aspect that impacted me most wasn't falling. It was observing your self-control. I was acting erratically, and you just managed the situation." Maya displayed no triumphalism, no smile. "I've had to manage numerous challenges," she stated simply. "People often underestimate one's capabilities." Ethan rubbed the back of his neck awkwardly. "Anyway, I'm not seeking forgiveness. I just needed to admit I was wrong. You didn't warrant that treatment." Maya looked directly at him, perceiving not fear, but a subdued quality. The quiet realization of someone acknowledging the world doesn't center around them. "I appreciate you saying that," she responded. He gave a single nod and turned to depart. Just like that, the confrontation reached its conclusion. Not erased, not forgotten, but resolved. Later that evening, Maya assisted her mother with folding laundry at the kitchen table. Priya observed her daughter and asked gently, "Are you doing all right?" Maya smiled. "Yes, I am." The truth was, the conflict had never fundamentally been about physical aggression. It centered on intrinsic worth, on recognizing one's value and refusing to allow diminishment, irrespective of detractors' volume or numbers. And occasionally, taking a stand doesn't involve physical blows. It simply requires knowing oneself unequivocally and refusing to be diminished when challenged, whether through physical actions, words, glances, or biased assumptions. Carry this thought. Strength doesn't necessitate shouting. It merely requires holding your ground. If you have ever experienced being underestimated, ignored, or treated unfairly, share your thoughts in the comments, lend your voice, and reassure others they aren't isolated in their experiences.